Oh, that was a beautiful shot, if I do say so myself. So, Battlefield 1, PlayStation 4 footage. Ignore any of the noise you hear in the background because everyone has a day off at the house. So, I got about 50 hours in Battlefield 1, and I started sniping about a week ago, and put it around with a bunch of rifles, a bunch of setups, and this is kind of the conclusion I've come to. So, you got 3 sniper rifles to choose from. The marksman rifles with telescopic scopes kind of don't count because they only go to ×4. And the sniper rifles go to ×10. So you really want a sniper rifle, you really want a bipod, that's what you want. Now, the Russian sniper rifle, which is what you get from the very beginning, is not very good because the bullet velocity is pretty slow, and if you're doing long-range sniping, which I prefer to do, you're going to want a 10 x scope. So, to be a long-range sniper, Operations is the best game mode to do it, and you really want to be basically as far back away from the gunfighting as possible while still having line of sight. So notice that I am pretty far away from the action, but that's actually what you want. The more space you can create, the safer you will be when you're actually sniping. And the longer you'll live, the less likely you'll be counter-sniped, so distance is really your friend. And that's why you want the bipod, that's why you want the 10 x scope. And basically you never want to be on the objectives, whether you're defending or attacking. You pretty much want to be in your spawn. That way no one can knife you, and the only thing you really have to worry about is like a Zeppelin, a counter-sniper. That's about it. Now, one thing that I've never seen any of the other snipers discuss on these YouTube videos is the idea of having a spotter. So you'll notice that I've got Magpul Pro. He's my designated spotter, and he's a support gunner. He's got a telescopic scope on his support gun. He's got a bipod. He has mortars, and you can see that I asked him to get rid of that tree, and he got rid of the tree for me. He found this spot. If I happen to get killed or counter-sniped, I can spawn back on him and go right back to where I started. So you really want to have a spotter, someone who is pretty much, you know, always in the vicinity. So you can tell that he's on the roof, very close to me. And yeah, that's one thing I've never seen anyone else discuss, is the idea of like, oh, you need to have a spotter. But it's key. Now, anytime you're long-range sniping and a sniper starts shooting at you, it's time to relocate. So once they know where you are, don't try to defend yourself. Literally just try to, you know, find a new spot, literally. And it might take you a few minutes to get a good spot, but theoretically, once you get a good spot, you could sit there for a few minutes and really start racking up the kills. So this is all, you're about to see basically 3 minutes of unedited footage of me shooting in a house before they notice me. And at that point, once they notice me, I relocate. So it's kind of key with how this setup works. And also the idea of, like, you will get a feel for shooting ahead of your targets, kind of. Because, like, basically you have to compensate for the bullet travel. Bullet drop is not that big a deal under 200 yards or meters, but really you gotta kind of be concerned with how long it takes for the bullet to get there, so that's kind of why you have to lead your targets. And you will get the hang of it. It's a little rough at first, but after a while, you start to sort it out, and it kind of becomes second nature. Like, that opening clip was me shooting a guy off a horse, and I'm like, yeah, you get the hang of it after a while, believe it or not. But the bipod's a must, and yeah. So just keep in mind that you really want to be as far away as possible, and you want to have a spotter that's disciplined. And the reason why the spotter has to be support is literally for the ammo, because you'll notice that I'm pretty much low on ammo, and I do need my spotter to give me ammo, because when I don't have a spotter, I'll sit in the spot, run out of ammo, and all of a sudden I'll have to leave my spot, go back into the battlefield, find some ammo, then run back. I lose a bunch of minutes, and it's really a hassle. So you're gonna want to have a spotter who can give you ammo. It's really key to long-range sniping. I did do aggressive recon for a long time, but when I did aggressive recon, I just had iron sights and the Lee Enfield, which looks like the SMLE. But once you graduate and become a big boy, at that point you can do the long-range sniping, and it's pretty sweet. So here, the sectors have moved back and we need to retreat, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit here for as long as I can, but I do know I have to retreat once these guys get closer, because you don't want to be close quarters sniping with a 10 x scope and a bipod. You're going to be stuck using a 1911. It's not ideal. Let me think about this for a minute. What else is important? So I talked about the ammo. Oh, What the support gunner should carry, you should probably carry mortars, some sort of explosive grenade, obviously the big ammo box, and you're gonna want your support guy. You got to be in communication with your support guy. So obviously, it almost needs to be one of your personal friends, and you're gonna need him to be actually Johnny on the spot with ammo and to actually care about what he's doing. You need a disciplined support guy, basically. You can't just have someone running around who's not next to you. One of the main things is when you're carrying the K bullets, which is what you use for anti-vehicles, you're gonna run out of those real quick because you only hold 5, and you probably need about 15 to 20 to take out a tank. So you're gonna need 3 or 4 ammo boxes to take out a single tank. But you can with the sniper class. So, you know, if you and the support gunner are back there, and you can basically do everything. I mean, you could spot all the enemies for the team. Notice that because I don't have line of sight, I dropped some flares. So the flares work the same way UAVs do in the old games and in like Call of Duty. So pop a couple flares, all of a sudden the mini-map for your team just lights up with all the enemies, and they know where everyone is. So even if I can't be shooting people because I don't have a good line of sight, I got the ammo box, keep dropping flares, and everyone knows what's going on. And it's just super helpful for the team. On top of that, the flares help out the mortars for your support gunner. So when your support gunner is carrying mortars, you know, they're almost useless without the flares. So the flares really help. So for this next set of objectives, it's like the 2 windmills, and I'm going in the windmill in the back. Now the windmills are actually not that good because of this, those blades that cover the windows. The blades covering the windows is a complete hassle, but if you have a support gunner spotter, you can ask him, hey, blow up the windmill a little bit to get rid of those blades, and then when he does that, you can fire out the windows without having something obstructing your view every couple seconds. So the windmills are useless without a spotter, and this is why I'm like, this is so important to have a spotter for long-range sniping. It keeps you fed with ammo, keeps the flares pretty much unlimited, you can take out all the tanks, you can mark all the enemies, you've got good line of sight because if there's a tree in the way, you can get rid of that tree. If there's a wall in the way, you can get rid of that wall. And you can't, but your spotter can. So I cannot express enough how important it is to have a spotter. And snipers in real life always have spotters, and that was something that me and some of my ex-military friends were discussing, where we were like, yeah, you really need a spotter when you're sniping in this game, which I thought was funny, because I probably played for 10 hours without a spotter, and then once I played for a game session with a proper spotter, I was like, wow, this is so convenient. Like, look at this guy. He's finding me better spots. Like, I didn't know I could climb this, but he was like, oh, climb up this way, here, I'll show you. And now, in this close quarters level where you don't have normally good advantages, look at, I'm elevated, I can see a lot better. So, you can also have your spotter looking for new spots to relocate to, because you're going to be relocating all the time in the urban combat levels. In the big wide open levels, you're not going to, you can just sit there almost the entire match and it's pretty chill. But for these levels, like, you're going to be within 100 meters of the enemies, and you really got to kind of relocate the second they see you, because you're not going to be able to counter-snipe everyone. Once you're marked, something's going to kill you. So you really have to be conditioned to relocate. And the only time I'm ever in the objectives, like, because right now I'm in the objectives, but that's because it's an urban combat level. Like, I can't hang back 200 meters. I have to be kind of in the thick of it. My backup weapon that I recommend all snipers carry is the 1911. It takes about 3 shots to kill a guy at close range, sometimes 2. But you really need something that shoots fast, accurate, reloads quick. Like, it's going to be your go-to close quarters weapon, because this thing's pretty useless at close quarters. If you don't get the headshot, you're not going to kill him, and it's pretty difficult to use a 10-time scope at close range. Here we're in a building. You can see that my spotter actually covered me, killed the bad guy, marked some flares. You can see that the minimap is glowing red with a bunch of guys. I'm going to relocate. I don't want to be here anymore, because why stay there and die, for real? Like, it's my job to live and to snipe, because I am a long-range sniper. So, I relocate across the street. That A objective is where I used to be. Here comes a tank trying to heal itself, because my team was lighting it up, and so the tank tries to hide right here, start firing the K bullets into it. And the K bullets are a must, because you're going to be destroying vehicles, you're going to be disabling vehicles, and if you have a spotter with an ammo box, you can actually take it out. Because when you're by yourself, 5K bullets is not going to cover it. 5K bullets is probably going to do about 20 damage. So you need a lot of K bullets for your secondary. Really, you're just going to carry K bullets and flares. As far as the grenade, that's kind of your call. I happen to carry 2 gas grenades, but I should probably carry something a little more heavy-duty in case I need to blow up a wall or a tree. So that's subject to change, but currently I just carry gas grenades because I do. I like having 2 of them. I like if they have to put their gas masks on and they have to hip fire. I'm at such a disadvantage that, you know, I'm using a 1911 for close quarters gunfighting. That's why I want to use the gas. So, I believe they've pushed us back to the last few objectives, and there's 3 objectives to defend, but the only objective where I can get a long-range shot is this one. And remember, I want to be as far back as possible while still being able to see what's going on. So, I'm going to guard A, I'm going to ignore C and B, and A is going to be the objective I guard for this mode. Ask my spotter to take out that tree, and he took out the tree. And your visibility becomes dramatically better. I actually had him blow up those branches too, which I don't know if I showed or not, but I was like, blow those branches up because they were in the way. At that point, look at that. Nice crisp shots, and I got pretty good line of sight. So, not to be redundant, but I'm like, I really cannot say how important it is to have a spotter and to have unlimited ammo, because you're going to fly through ammo real quick. You only hold about 25-30 rounds, and you're going to go through that pretty fast, believe it or not, and especially when you don't die. Like, typically, when I play this way, long-range sniping, I do not die more than 5 times. And 5 times is excessive. Like, a lot of times I'll die once, maybe even 0. For real. Like, I'll get through entire game modes without dying. I think my best KDR was like 45 and 1, you know? Which is pretty good. It's a lot better than 2 to 1 or 3 to 1. It's like 45 to 1. So, it will do wonders for your KDR if you do decide to do this long-range sniping thing properly. What else? Oh, you know what else, actually? I force this loadout. So this 10 times bipod sniper rifle, which is the 1903, it's my absolute favorite. I force this in the close quarters levels. So no matter what the level is, this is my gun, this is what I use, I make it work. If it's extreme close quarters, I'll start using the 1911. But I don't see a disadvantage to having the 10 times scope, even in these urban combat levels. Once you're looking down a scope, you're at a huge disadvantage for close target acquisition. You really want those headshots. So because you want those headshots, the bigger the scope, the bigger the head, the easier it is to hit these things. I just highly recommend it. So, really no matter what level you're doing, just carry... If you're going to be sniping with the telescopic scope, go big or go home. So literally carry that ×10 scope and, you know, go to work. It's a lot more casual to be in the back. You know, like, you'll be watching just hell on earth through your scope, and very rarely do you get anyone shooting at you. It's pretty quiet back there. You know, if you don't have anyone to shoot, just start popping flares. You'll start getting a lot of points when you pop flares. Especially if you pop flares on an objective where your guys are and it's really dense with enemy cover. Just pop some flares and you'll start noticing you get flare assists. So the worst enemy for long-range sniping is this fog. And once the fog comes in and you can't really do much, just start popping flares. And you'll notice, see my spot flare assist, it's like 25, 75, 100, 150, 175. What was that, like 5 seconds? And all of a sudden you're like, wow, they killed like 8 people with that one flare, so... I don't know how my spotter got on this roof, but somehow he, like, mountain goated his way on this roof, and I deployed on him. So another reason to have a talented spotter, if they're like a mountain goat, you can get to sweet spots that are not normally doable. And yeah, I'd never been on this roof before having the spotter, so I was like, God, you are so good at this. I'm like, you are a good spotter. And really nice line of sight. Like, I could see freaking everything. And that tree, I asked him to mortar that tree. He did. Now we're popping flares. He's mortaring. He's like laughing about how the minimap is glowing, and he's just destroying people with mortars. So literally, we're in the back. Everyone's marked. Everyone's getting shot. Everyone's getting mortared. We sat on this roof, and the enemy did not get past these 2 objectives. So we sat on this roof for like 15 minutes, won the game, and we were just laughing. Then the enemy gets a second go at it, but this time they have a Zeppelin, so they get through, because you know how the Zeppelin is. Like, the Zeppelin just pounds, 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 and eventually the Zeppelin actually killed us. So, remember when I said you don't die a lot except for snipers or Zeppelins? Literally, that's going to be the only time you die, is if you get counter-sniped, or if the Zeppelin frickin' kills you. But once the Zeppelin is down, it is back to smooth sailing, and yeah. You might not notice it because you can't see him, but literally my spotter is probably within 10 feet of me pretty much at all times. He's just always there doing stuff. Asked him to take that tree out, took that tree out, now I got much better line of sight. These were all things that are not possible without a support spotter. And it's so awesome. Like, this is actually what sniping is. It's a two-man team. So, honestly, for long-range sniping and not aggressive recon, you need a two-man team. And that man literally needs to be support. Like, there's no reason to have a medic. You really don't need a third guy, because, like, if you had a medic, it almost doesn't matter, because if you get headshotted or, like, blown up, you can't get revived. So, like, you really don't need the medic, you just need these two guys. And these two guys can get a lot of work done together. So, notice that this is probably the most close quarters level on the map, and I'm still forcing that 10 times scope. Like, I see no reason to change, make it work. Popping flares, watching the mini-map, people are starting to rush right in. The nice thing about the flares is that no one can surprise you when you pop them. Like, it is like having a UAV from Call of Duty, and also if they walk through it, they're on fire, so that's pretty convenient. When you're on fire, you really gotta deal with that. Like, it's such a distraction to be on fire. So I cannot say enough how multifaceted the flares are. And notice that this is all 1911 stuff at close range. If I miss a shot, gotta go to work with the 1911. So, you could maybe carry a different pistol, but I really think you need a semi-automatic magazine-fed pistol, because it's going to be your primary weapon in close quarters. So, we're starting to come full circle, where we're now back on that very first level again. We played through a couple of operations. This is our third and final operation. Is in the windmill. You can see those blades spinning. Pretty annoying to not have them. It's pretty annoying to have them in the way, so I asked my spotter to get rid of them. Got rid of them. And all of a sudden it was back to smooth sailing. All of these shots are way over 200 meters, but the 10 times scope makes it seem pretty easy, pretty close. And really, 200 meters is kind of that sweet spot. Yes, I can get shots at 500 meters, but 200 meters, it's just a lot easier with the 1903, because there's pretty much no bullet drop. Like, there's just a little. Like, aim at the top of their head, you're going to get that headshot. That being said, I tend to aim for center of mass, unless it's a guy on a horse or a guy standing still. So if they're moving, I don't really aim for the headshot. I just aim for center of mass, and if they're injured, they're going to die. And if they go prone, which a lot of times they do, they're gonna die. By the way, I love when people go prone. God, that is the best. When you're long-range sniping and they go prone, you're like, hey, and you take that perfect, perfectly aimed shot, and it's super low stress. Just picked up a service star. Starting to get foggy. Whenever the fog sets in, your range goes from, I'd probably say about 75 meters. So, like, once the fog kicks in, you cannot see 100 meters downrange. You can only see about 75 meters downrange. But if you can get in these little nooks, see I'm firing out of little holes, little spots, it's really hard for them to return fire on me. Because I'm such a small target, I'm not moving. It's one of those things where you'd be surprised how not moving, people can, like, run right by you in the middle of the street if you're lying perfectly still. Which I've had happen a lot, where, like, I literally have no cover, I'm just not moving, no one notices me. So, something to keep in mind, and one of the benefits to being, like, as an example, okay, this guy should see me, but he doesn't, and I'm not moving, I'm not aiming down sights, because the sniper rifle scope glint only kicks in when you hold left trigger and aim down sights. So if you don't aim down sights, you'll never have the glint. And so because I'm not moving, because I'm not glinting, he doesn't notice me, and I literally sit here and just pump those K rounds into him until he dies. And keep in mind, the 5K rounds would not be enough, but once I run out, I ask my spotter for another box of ammo, and we fly through boxes of ammo like candy, because literally he had, like, I think 50 resupplies in one round, because I was just firing flares, firing K bullets, and literally you fly through boxes of ammo probably every 10 seconds, which is really good for your support gunner. Like, he'll level up real fast, so it's one of those things where it works out better for everyone. Like, your team gets hooked up because there's constant flares, constant spotting, constant sniping, and your support gunner gets hooked up because he's going to be resupplying all day, every day. And he's just going to go up and level up super fast. So this is a redo of the final shot, which I'm so pleased with, because, man, it is not easy to get a 200-meter moving shot on a horseback rider. But, oh man, such a sweet shot. Super happy with it. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you on the battlefield.